A lot of them, they have their own outbound targets and completely ignore marketing leads.
I sit down with the sales team and I ask them, what does a perfect lead look like? Company size, number of team people on their team. It signals a high fit matched lead. And then what I do is then I build that into the registration flow. That data is then all aggregated and pushed into the CRM. In order for sales to value the leads, you have to talk to sales about what is a valuable lead.
Okay, let's, if you don't mind, let's start right
Sure,
at the
let's do
beginning. Okay, I know that you are an advocate of multi-partner alliances, bringing 3, 4, 5 different brands together. And I would like to know, why is the one-to-one model is failing today? What is the math behind it?
Great. Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why. The first one on the one-to-one model is because sometimes you're working with a new partner and you don't quite understand their capabilities, their promises, and what actually gets delivered. And so first and foremost, there's just like a single point of failure risk. Like you could do all the work and a partner can show up and they can deliver content, but content's cheap in these days. It's attention, traffic, eyeballs, and customers and traffic generation, which is the most valuable thing to have. Ultimately, it's not about content partnerships. It's about list building and audience building and lead generation. And so single point of failure with a single point-to-point webinar. The next one is everyone's doing one-to-one webinars. And so the way that you market your webinars, there's no differentiation to the market on LinkedIn or in the inboxes. And so it's just, hey, these two people are talking about this. That's the second issue, is there's just no way to break through the noise. Number 3 is the issue around the better together story. And so there is not necessarily a risk, but there's a missed opportunity in that when you're in an ecosystem, you might only see your company and your partner's company, but the marketplace, the people looking for solutions, are looking everywhere. They're constantly paying attention to new products, new tech, new tools, new playbooks, new agencies, new solutions. And so they're bombarded with that in a good way. They're out there searching for that. And so the opportunity with multi-part alliances is that then instead of leaving it up to your customer to build the mental brand model, which exists out there in the marketplace as a scrolling tapestry of multiple logos that they have to piece together as these are the better together solutions, what you end up doing with multi-partner alliances is building that brand map for them, defining in the market together as an alliance, these are the best apps for these particular personas trying to achieve these particular outcomes, these particular pain points. And so multi-partner alliances then allow for the opportunity to then make a branding statement consistently and repeatedly. And that's another element around alliances, is alliances aren't one-off campaigns that happen every once in a while, every quarter or every half year. It's something that when you really think about what the alliance is, it's a coalition of continuity that then continually drives that attention and branding of the alliance together. And I'm sure there's a couple other ones, and I would probably say the last one and the most valuable one of all is that at any one point in time, let's just pick one of those fancy numbers, 1 to 3% of your ICP is in market for your solution. And so that goes for your partner's products. And if you have a multi-partner alliance, what you end up doing is if you just make up a list, make up a number here, if you've got 1,000 registrants for your webinar, that means that there's 30 people on that particular list that is and are in market for your solution. And so when you do a multi-partner, let's bring down the number. On a single point-to-point webinar, you've got maybe let's just call it an easy number, 100 people who register, which means there's 3 people who are in market for your product and 3 people for your partner's product. And then when you look at multi-partner alliances, especially through webinars and big virtual events, what you end up doing is multiplying the potentiality of the number of people who are on their list for your customer base. And your list, on their list for your customer base, and on their list for their customer base. And so what you really end up doing is bringing just a larger pool of potential in-market leads into the let's call it into the alliance ecosystem.
But should this alliance be kind of, I don't know, tech integrations, or what kind of alliances it can be? Because like, as you said, one customer, he might not be looking for this particular solution, but he might look for another one, right? And what brings together, how to make these alliances, partnership? It should be like kind of tech partnership between these platforms.
It's often tech partner alliances. What really matters is your two things: your average sales price, and so lower the price, the higher the volume. The higher the price, the lower the volume you need. Typically, the lower the price, the more self-service it is. The higher the price, the more complex and solution partner oriented it's going to be. And so you have to look at, not necessarily is this a pure tech partner to tech partner play, but really like look at the ecosystem of solutions that a customer needs to incorporate to achieve the outcome. And then you can then see, do you need a solutions partner in the process? They're probably not going to be able to drive a ton of traffic, right? Like solutions partners aren't necessarily like high volume, big lists, tons of traffic generation. Often there might be some exceptions where you have an influencer who's started either a media or content-based company that has an agency and solutions attached to it, but that's the exception rather than the rule. And so when incorporating solutions providers, they're really there to help you explain the additional service capabilities, or if a customer's like, hey, we really want to do this, but we don't have the bandwidth for implementation, we don't have the bandwidth for migration, like that's an objection to procuring your product or service. If you know that's an issue to time to value or customer lifetime value, then yeah, you're going to want to include a solutions provider to speak to those points, to demonstrate that authority, and to be part of that alliance. Now, their ability to reciprocate isn't going to come in the form of like traffic volume and webinar and lead generation in the sense of high volume. Now, they might have some very high level clients that if you have a consumption-based model or a seat-based model, maybe they've got some big mid-market to enterprise customers. But again, like that's part of your partner discovery. And overall, the alliance is strengthened when you do have solutions partners involved who understand the complete layout of all the different tech pieces that are a part of the alliance. And so they can actually be a hub in the middle to help string together the opportunities. And so that way, in fact, actually, I worked on a ecosystem project like this where there were 6 or 7 tech solutions, and the company who organized the alliance, they put a solutions provider in the middle who understood all of those. And so instead of sending the leads to like individual AEs, there was a central we'll almost call it like SDR, who then like really then took the intake, did the discovery work, understood the map and layout of like where that company was, their roadmap, their issues, and then created a game plan on like which tech pieces to implement at what stages to then achieve those results. Now, this was an enterprise level ecosystem orchestration, but just to answer your question, like, of course, yeah, bring a solutions provider, especially if you can bring that level of ownership to the of implementation to the process.
You've mentioned discovery stage, and I know that it's kind of hard, especially if you're a small startup. Can you maybe bring some light? For example, imagine I am a small startup owner and I would like to pitch a giant. Not a HubSpot or Salesforce, someone a bit smaller, but anyway, a company who is much bigger. How should I pitch them to join my multi-partner event? What specific value, pros, and I should pitch them?
Yeah, so this is actually a really good strategy for a startup because you have to look at like, well, what do you bring to the table? You're a partner. Like, Can you bring traffic and leads? Can you solve a huge missing pain point in the customer journey process? Do you have that unique value proposition? And oftentimes, like, small startups are like fledgling and they don't have like, completely strong product market fit. They definitely don't have like a huge following. They can't really drive traffic. And so what contribution can a particular startup bring? And so that's actually a perfect reason why to use a multi-partner alliance. In fact, that's actually where I started my small, tiny startup for, is I knew that I didn't have any of those things to offer, but what I did have is the vision, clarity, and we'll call it grit and elbow grease to do the work of bringing these people together, because to do this requires orchestration, timing, meeting planning, getting companies to say what to commit and then follow through. And so the value a startup can have without any of the other normal attributes that a top partner would want, you can actually just do the grunt work, own the process, and then help to deliver the results across everybody. In fact, actually, like, if you're a small startup, a multi-partner alliance might be your only way to get in and to be a part of it, because you don't really have much else to offer. And especially if you're bootstrapped, cash strapped, like, what else do you have to help bring value together? And so now you're the centerpiece, helping drive 3 or 4 other partners who might otherwise be communicating, wouldn't otherwise be doing any sort of co-marketing. And so you become the facilitator, the highway, the connecting piece. And that's a valuable part of the process. And someone has to own it. Like, these things don't work unless somebody sits and owns that across multiple organizations. And so by being the catalyst, by being the owner, by being the bridge, by being the connector and orchestrator, this is actually a fantastic opportunity for companies who want to get into partnerships, don't really have the traditional cachet necessary to really get a seat at the table. And so if you can't get a seat at the table, build a table and invite others to it.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Okay. Welcome to our Tapfiliate podcast, and today I'm sitting with Justin Zimmerman, the great person actually. And let's put it like this. Justin, can you introduce yourself? Bring the best of you in an introduction, who you are.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Justin Zimmerman, and I run a media consulting company focused on partnerships, partnerplaybooks.com. And that has been the engine of innovation for me to build multi-partner playbooks that focus on events, co-marketing, that have over the last year driven over 10,000 registrants to my webinars, delivered over 1,500 qualified leads to my partners. And I've recently been hired by HubSpot to be their they have a program that teaches their partners how to go to market together. And so I'm next year starting as a consultant and trainer to teach them partner webinars and partner marketing as their official partner webinar coach.
Well, sounds great. Being a part of HubSpot, I think it's a great achievement. Definitely. But okay, let's move on. I know that running an event, it's a kind of hard work, as you mentioned, and a startup only can be a facilitator of this. Okay, but running it for one, even for one partner, it's a hard work. But for 5 partners, it's a kind of nightmare. What is the system, or SOP you use to align all different marketing teams that they actually promote on time, listening, and register numbers, etc.?
Sure. Yeah. Well, like every event, you work backwards from a date, and then you work backwards from that date to say, on this date, the event is happening. On this date, this marketing communication is going out. On this date, slide decks are done. On this date, right, we get the landing page up. And so, running an event is actually like reverse math. So when is the date happening, and then working backwards on those key dates. And then everything else from there is really communication with your partners on keeping those dates front and center, and then making sure that, and there's quite a bit of hand holding, but that's the job, that's the role of a multi-partner manager, multi-partner alliance orchestrator, and then really the simplest tool that I've created or SOP around that is just get everybody into a common Slack channel. Every time someone who's a part of the program for the event, event name dash, date, and put that into the channel. And then I then also personally DM everybody just an update. And so it's really communication with stakeholders and making sure that you have a checklist on a spreadsheet or in a Google Doc with basically, have you delivered this to them yet? Have they sent it? Have they provided you this? And so it's just, real basic stuff like dates, Slack channels, and then like a list of deliverables, and then people's action and follow through on them, and then it's just staying on top of them to do it. So it's not like difficult work. It doesn't require like a whole bunch of like special skills. It's just staying on top of commitments and holding people accountable to those things. And like a partner manager, it's a partner manager role. So like if you're a partner manager and you've done partner management and you have conversations with people about objectives, projects, and goals, and then deliverables and follow through, instead of it being one-to-one with one partner at a time, it actually eases the communication, because then now you have 4 or 5 partners all acting on one campaign, and it's the same communication across all of them. And so the heavy lift, the operationalization of any campaign, especially on a one-to-one, there's always like this initial investment, but then to add more partners to an initial investment, the fixed costs are in from the development of that program or that campaign. And now adding additional partners is like a small marginal variable cost of just additional communication to that one additional point of contact. And so that's also one of the things like why multi-partner events and multi-partner alliances are wonderful, is because everybody's now operating off of the same playbook. You don't have this playbook for this person, that playbook for that person, a set of rules for this person, a set of campaigns for that person. You're really creating like assets at scale. And so then, like the word at scale means, now just add more partners, up into a point, right? And so that way everyone's operating off of the same thing, and then you're just getting more outcomes for almost the same initial investment.
But events actually kind of hard to track because of all these dark attribution model, dark social, etc. Right? Because someone can watch a webinar and then, I don't know, weeks later go to URL, Google search, and etc. How do you solve this attribution darkness?
Yeah,
and who particularly in charge of setting the tracking parameters?
Yeah, so there's some basic things you can do, right? You're not going to solve attribution. No one's going to solve attribution 100%. And so how do you track the attribution from an event? I create custom fields, and I use a tracking ID for every partner that I work with. And then even every partner who has different contacts, like a speaker at one company, the social media team at that company, their email. And so I just provide UTM codes and just passing that along into the fields, and then making sure that you have some sort of like permanent attribution model in place. And so I use like an ambassador code for every single person. And so like there's a first touch attribution and there's last touch attribution. And so basically if someone registers for a webinar and you want to go backwards and say, hey, they converted into a sale or a pipeline, you'd go back and you'd look at those 2 attribution fields. You can also see in the history, if you're using HubSpot, like, if you're not using a CRM to track this stuff, and of course, like, or some tool like, Tapfiliate, or some company that, you're providing tracking links from and clicking on it, like that can also be a source of truth. But ultimately, if it's not feeding into your CRM and is part of your deal fields and your contact fields, you can only do so much, but essentially like make sure you have, like some basic UTM capture parameters, and that using the activity record when someone registers for one of your events. It's not that hard to track. If someone registers for something, you've got a touch point. If it's in your CRM, you can report on it.
And what happened next? For example, we marketers generate attention, bring all these leads to CRM, but I know that sales, a lot of them they say like we need to more inbound, but a lot of them they have their own outbound targets and completely ignore marketing leads. How to translate this webinar attendee data to sales signal that sales representatives actually respect them and use them?
That's a great question. That's actually something I've put a tremendous amount of energy into. And so I've built a process in my webinar and event registration flows that before we launch the event, I sit down with the sales team and I ask them, what does a perfect lead look like? Company size, number of people on their team, role, title, all the kind of the key 3 to 4, maybe 5 attributes, pain points that are commonly discussed during a demo or qualification call that it signals a high fit matched lead. And then what I do is then I build that into the registration flow. And so I've built a multi-step tool, like I call it Typeform for webinars. And so like on the first step, you have your regular registration. So someone registers, they hit submit, boom, they're registered, no loss in conversion. And then on the next step, believe it or not, get about a 50% conversion on this next step, which is all the scoring stuff that people will tell you. So that way, once people register, that data is then all aggregated and pushed into the CRM. And then I have a simple HubSpot workflow I call a lead router that then gets sent to the sales team. And so in order for sales to value the leads, you have to talk to sales about what is a valuable lead, and then you have to validate people as they come through. So that way, when those leads come through, they can clearly see that ABC person from XYZ company with 1,700 employees suffers from this pain point, is looking for these solutions, and is currently, has these number of people on their team, right? And so they'll give you the answers if you ask, but you have to ask sales what's important. Then you have to ask your registrants where they are, and then you need a process to send that match to the sales team. So that way, when they see those leads come through, it's what they asked for.
I kind of wonder actually how many of companies, I know that you conducting a personal consultation, right, for some brands as well, and how many of brands actually use these webinars leads and increase percentage of commission from them? For example, I know a company, one of my colleagues, she working in Enrich, it's a ABM platform, and when they start paying their sales representatives more commission from marketing leads, they actually double their outcome. I just wonder how many companies really rely on these marketing leads more than outbound.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to vary by company. And going back to price point, like higher price point, you can put a bigger commission on it. Lower price point, SMB, $5,999 a month lead, track value. You can't really offer much on a salesperson to get them incentivized to sign up for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many companies in the world incentivize marketing leads.
From your experience, from your customers, how many of them really keen on marketing leads or from on this webinar?
I mean, from what I've heard and seen, there is no, this commission's commission, so it's a sale. So I mean, there's no difference between a marketing lead commission and an outbound sales commission lead. I could see that being helpful to want to incentivize people to work on marketing leads. I just haven't really heard of anybody doing that.
But yeah, because when I heard this first time from my colleague from this company, I thought, well, it's actually a smart move, because you as a marketing, you spending your time on generating these leads to educate, to bring them to a webinar, for example, and then your sales doing outbound and completely ignore, not maybe completely, but somehow or neglect these leads. Not
Yeah, I mean,
try.
I'll default back to, like, philosophically speaking, if marketing is aligned with sales, which is the ideal, then marketing is talking to sales about how do we have better targeting, so that way sales feels like what they're getting is valuable to them, and then sales is just comped on what they're already comped on, and marketing is doing the work that they should be doing. But if marketing's out there generating, out of ICP leads, there's a problem with marketing, right? And so I feel like and to compensate sales teams with additional interest and incentive to work marketing leads is a good idea, but I would say it seems like there's some other underlying problem that you're trying to fix with commissions and incentives, when ultimately marketing should already be generating leads that sales are interested in.
Yeah, I agree. It's controversial. From some point, it might be good. From some, it's not, because maybe they are not so focused. If you can't your sales, they don't work with these leads by default, what doing the marketing? Why they are not working?
Yeah. Why do we? Yeah, like if sales knows best and they're out there prospecting for themselves and they know how to like procure and close deals and get their commissions, then yeah, that's great. But it just seems like there's a misalignment between what the sales org is doing and the marketing org is doing.
Yeah, I will know one sales rep in the company where I worked with. The person, this sales reps, showed really great results of closing deals. And when we started analyzing what she is doing, we realized that she's just getting all the old leads from the database no one worked with and just reactivate them. And it was the best, like the biggest conversion rate, because she's just grabbed the same leads. It was already in a database, but no one worked with them because, okay, this lead from, I don't know, ages ago. I don't know. Okay, Justin, from your experience, what are the, I don't know, top 3-5 biggest mistakes that brands usually do when they try to create this multi-partner alliance webinar? Like the biggest that you see that most of companies really do.
Yeah, the companies that try to do it on their own, what ends up happening is they don't realize the actual amount of work it takes to run and organize these. And so, for one, there aren't a lot of multi-partner alliances out there, because what ends up happening is they see the value, they get excited by the idea, and then they go to make the commitment and they realize that you run one of these, but then it takes someone's full time to go do it. And so guess what happens? Next quarter, new objective, new product, new release. And so the politics, the product development roadmap schedule changes, the board has a different idea. And so what ends up happening is, because there is, again, a single point of failure, the company it takes, and it's usually one company that like motivates and brings everybody together. And then that person inside that company is now managing their normal work for the company that they work for. And then they're also trying to keep up with and manage the multi-partner alliance. And so ultimately what ends up happening is companies just by nature are selfish, self-interested in what's best for them. And so a company who has a board of directors, shareholders, layers of management, they have those people who are dictating the priorities. And what ends up happening is what's important and best for the company itself, not the alliance. And so then what ends up happening is you have a great experience one time. Maybe it becomes an annual project that everyone works on together. But then again, where the value is made is in the consistency, repeatability, and multiple go-to-market experiences that the alliance puts out into the market. And so if you do something one time, that's not an alliance, that was an event. And so to manage an alliance, it is its own project management, partner management, set of rules of engagement, MarTech systems. And so to really get it right, where it's not just a single one-off event, the investment time frame is more than just quarters period of time. And so where they get it wrong is that they get excited by the energy of running one of these things, but then they realize how much work it is. And then there's other work that comes in its place, and that way, and then, they don't do it again, or they do it again next year, maybe before like an inbound or Salesforce event, and they all band together again. But there is no continuity and consistency in the output because they don't realize and then what it takes to do on the onset. And then once they do realize it, it's just not something that one company typically has the resources, focus, and I would say discipline to manage and maintain.
Yeah, and then that brings for me the understanding that if a company, a small startup, okay, or maybe a SMB company, and would like to start with a partnership with a creating a multi-alliance, would be better to hire an agency to conducting all these partnerships, because for example, a consultant as you are, because you have a connection, right? For you, it's much better to communicate and negotiate with bring partners for a company rather than for in-house team started from scratch.
Yep, that's true.
What is the line when brands should hire an agency and when they need to create in-house start?
Yeah, so my experience is people have to experience the pain in order to want to like spend the money, right? And so it's like they see the opportunity and value, but then they have to go off and do it on their own, because bringing in an agency, like, we can talk about all the things we can solve for, but if you don't understand like those pain points, then there's no relative value to it. So I would say encourage people who want to do this to go off and try, and then maybe
when you fail, come to me.
Yeah, when you fail, come to me. But like I would say a company who has the vision of wanting to like own this process, they should bring in an event consultant. That would probably be the first event manager, event consultant, and help them and have them do some of that technical work, that communication work. But then again, there just needs to be someone who has the vision inside of the company to do this. But again, like I said, just because an internal stakeholder has the vision, if there's not bigger, broader strategic buy-in, ultimately that's what it is. Like the real mindset behind this is 1, 2, 3 companies have to say, we want a strategic advantage in the marketplace. And we see this as a way to create a moat that helps us define and own this space in which we're already succeeding in or want to succeed in. And then these are the other partners who also want that as well. And so it's a strategic alliance, right? First, it's a mindset of that we're doing this not for the purposes of lead generation, but we're doing this for the purposes of market share and brand differentiation. And so if you can understand, like, this is not a marketing exercise with like, it's not about webinars, it's not about ebooks, it's not about blog posts, it's not about showing up in GTP results. It's about like ultimately building a strategic alliance with these companies, and then marketing is one of the vehicles, because you already have like the technological integration usually together, either one-to-one with your API and their API, or you're part of an ecosystem like HubSpot and you're already connected to a whole ecosystem of potential customers, regardless of which you already have an integration. You already have essentially a technological alliance via the API But then now you have to bring it to the next level where you create a marketing and sales alliance or an MSA.
Yeah. That's a good point. Actually, it's a good point that feel the pain and then come to me, because
it's like you have to have the strategic buy-in, then you have to feel the pain, and then this is just the buying process. And then okay, how do we solve this? And then what can we do in-house? What can we outsource? Who can own this for us? And so you just have to be able to see the parts of the puzzle that are missing or that you don't want to own or can't own.
And why I like this one, because I know that a lot of brands, sometimes they think that it's all so easy. It's so easy to create an event. It's so easy to build a alliance, to just bring a few people and to do marketing. It's so easy. And when they start doing it, eventually it's two ways. They might fail, or they eventually realize it's not so easy. And you need to have dedicated person if you would like to focus on it. For example, if you would like to focus on building partnership alliance, like strategic alliances, you need a dedicated person. Maybe not so involved in a strategic company growth, but as you mentioned, it's kind of a project management role, right? You need to manage every aspect of the event, how it's the schedule, the attendee, the host, guests, experts, etc., registrants, sharing leads, and all this. It's less marketing, more project management.
That's a huge component of it. I'll add to what you're saying by saying maybe it's easy to do, and I'm sure
it isn't.
Let's just say it's easy to do, but what's not is to maintain it, right? So doing something once, you can do something once, but can you do it repeatedly, consistently, and achieve the same or increasing results? That's hard, right? And then the other side of it is like ownership equals outcome, right? And so if someone doesn't own it, then there isn't an outcome. And so kind of like, do you want consistent results, or do you want one-off results every once in a while, right? Do you want the heavy lift all at once, or do you want to spread it out over time? And so ultimately, it's like anything. You just don't get amazing results instantly and once. It's just commitment, vision, alignment, and repetition.
Yeah. And what will be your future prediction about building partnership? Because as everyone see right now, it's got big thanks to AI, all these lovable Cursor, ChatGPT, whatever solutions. It's kind of easy to start your own program, or to start your own product, to create it, to differentiate it, to bring to find and bring some value. And I see a lot of companies that really start making all these partnership integration. For example, ChatGPT, right? He has right now inside ChatGPT, you can use Canva, Photoshop, etc., whatever, a lot of. And this is okay. What is your future prediction about this area?
So zooming up one level, if we really look at all these things, it's really about discovery, right? So SEO about discovery, PPC about discovery, events and trade shows about discovery, showing up in AI results about discovery, showing up in an integration marketplace like HubSpot's or Salesforce's, or if you have your own site list of integrations and partners, it's all about discovery. So what we're really talking about is, what is the future of discovery?
Yeah.
And partnerships are one element of that. So I believe that there's always a finite amount of attention and a finite number of places people go to ask questions and get results. And those questions are often about, and this is what the whole buyer's journey is about, which is about discovery. When a particular prospect in your particular ecosystem has an issue or a challenge they're trying to solve for, like that's the opening door to discovery. And so will they go into a community? Will they call their sales rep? Will they be on a quarterly account review? And will that particular AE mention that product and that placement and initiate a co-sell? And so I feel like definitely the near-term future for mid-market and enterprise level deals will still continue to be partnership driven because, again, lower price point, lower risk, usually ease of implementation, right? So less complex, lower cost. I could see the driving forces and factors behind partnerships in that particular area, which has already been somewhat limited to affiliates anyways and referral programs, and so now it's showing up inside of ChatGTP. And so where's ChatGTP? And if the ChatGTP is pulling, its data and its information from websites and SEO anyways. And so ultimately there's still points of influence buyers are going to, that whether they're searching it directly in Google or they're, AEOing it, like there's still centers of influence in which links, clicks, and attention's going to flow. And on I would say the lower price point of things, AI isn't going to change that drastically. It's just changed the UI in which that content and that information is consumed and clicked. And so from a partnership perspective, if you're on the lower end of the pricing point scale, you need to double down on being on all the partners' best websites, doing podcasts. You really got to get your media spread the same way that you would go for backlinks. It's still the same game from an SEO and discovery perspective. And then on the other side of the equation, on the higher price point stuff, more complex products, they're still going to be talking to their AEs. They're still going to be talking to, their people in their Slack channel who are, XYZ role title at these size companies. They're still going to be asking those. And so, like, are you in those communities? Do you have co-sell programs set up? And so I feel on the larger end of the spectrum, it's still going to involve a partner. When you got a 6-month procurement process with, a rip and replace massive system, that's still going to require partners to be a part of that equation until, I don't know, at what point software is just a chatbot that does everything. I'm not smart enough. I don't think anybody is smart enough to really predict exactly, the future of software. But in the near term future, complexity and price are intertwined, and then you're going to have partners along the way, reference partners, transactional partners. And on the lower end of the spectrum, it's still kind of the same game. It's just, making sure that the places you are posting your media are being pulled by the AI engines, I guess what we can call them that now, the AI search engines. So I don't see much of a shift. It's just, in fact, actually, that's where a multi-partner alliance comes into play, is that you can actually set the signal for the SEO and AEO to say, these are the 5 or 7 sites where this content around these questions, around these issues with these types of solutions show up. And so you can actually move the needle by doing this work and having your content on all of these different sites, your partner sites, them on your sites. And now you're multiplying and amplifying the signal, saying these are the tools and technology that work best together for these particular personas, ICP, and pain points.
Yeah, but what do you think? Will this partnership become more usable? Because I know that a lot of brands still, a lot of IT products, they started to create a product first, and then maybe a few years after, they start thinking about integration, creating a partnership integration inside someone and build it. What do you think? It's much better and faster to start thinking about integration first, because as you mentioned, and actually what I see as well, and as my behavior, for example, if a person use a product, of course, he make a discovery. For example, for his pains, he make a discovery through AI, ACO, whatever tool he would like. But when he tried to buy this tool or start working with the tool, I think first what we will check, if I have an integration with this tool in my existing pool. And it's not the same discovery as ACO or AI asking AI, because it's already, I know, like if it's in a catalog, in an integration list, it's much.
So if the people listening to this right now want to go down a deep rabbit hole on like integration first, go look up Jay McBain. He's kind of the centerpiece around all analyst work, former Forrester analyst. He now works for Canalys, which got acquired by Informa, some other name company. But nevertheless, he's been saying this is the decade of ecosystems for about 3 or 4 years, 5 years now. And he makes the case in point around, customers don't buy unless there's, 5 to 7 integrations along the way. And before saying that, one of the thoughts I had was also like, I don't know if the world of point solutions is what you're talking about. Is a point solution will sit and exist on its own, can operate in a silo and solve a very key element for, some sort of workflow, work process. But I look around and I don't really see, and maybe it's just my limited view, I don't see like point solutions really existing, purebred point solutions existing anymore. They have to be integrated. You want the data flowing into other systems. But, if maybe there's some blue ocean, undiscovered areas in some niche or industry somewhere where someone hasn't developed like the technological process yet. And so developing a point solution is like, wow, we're really uncovering some new ground here and it's making a big difference. And yeah, I would say product first, and those like that's what we're trying to say here is like, when is product first versus integration first like the right choice? And so I'm trying to answer that by saying, maybe there's new and undiscovered workflows that need to be processized technologically, and so there's the point solution. Build for that first, right? Because then that's where the majority of the pain is sitting in the market. But I think we're really at a point in probably almost every industry where almost every point solution problem has been solved for. And so then I would say from a scale perspective, like maybe you don't have a standalone points to, and that's the other qualifying word, standalone point solution. And so then for, quicker, faster scaling, which is how you can do partnerships. Again, if you're a technology company, plug into a major ecosystem where there's already a huge catalog. I think HubSpot's at 5,000 or 8,000 app partners. Now, are they all big, active, prosperous, profiting partners? No. But at least it gives you the opportunity to have some sort of common reason to partner with people. I try to use Zapier as a common integration, but again, Zapier is not necessarily the best qualifier for an integration partnership. Like, hey, we're both on Zapier, great. I tried to use that when I was very new. And so really, and your best customers are HubSpot customers, your best customers are Salesforce customers. Your ecosystem-centric customers tend to be your highest value customers. And so for someone who's coming into the market and saying, hey, I want to solve for a particular pain point, then I would say definitely go integration or ecosystem first might even be a better way to think about it, because regardless of which, you're going to have to build integrations, but then but where? And so where are your best potential customers? And then what ecosystem do they live in? And then what partners in that ecosystem would be your best partners to create a multi-partner alliance? I think that brings it kind of full circle.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. Yeah, makes sense. And actually, that's all for today. I don't have any particular questions for you, Justin. If you would like to share some, kind of strange experience from your background, maybe something that was funny, failure, or something like this that would like to share. If not, let's call it done.
Sure. Yeah. For all my runners out there, I've been a daily runner now for 2,500 50-something days, a little over 7 years. And so one day I put my running shoes on and I just started getting out there, and then I just never stopped. And so it's been a big, huge contributor to my personal health, my mental health, and to some degree, my personal brand. And so I can definitely speak to, from firsthand experiences, the power of consistency over intensity.
Yeah. Consistency beats everything. When you just do, of course, make some adjustments, and not the same, like not as a goat to a wall, right? Make adjustments, adjust to your audience, adjust to your trends, etc. But being consistent is the best strategy ever. Because like when you're fluctuating from one point to another one, from one point to another, you won't be better at any of it.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Justin, a lot.